Welcome to the Cold and Dark Start tutorial for the default 737 MAX in MSFS 2024. Let's start with the walk around. We're going to remove the engine covers. We'll also remove the remove before flight tags on the side and on the front. And we'll also remove the wheel chocks. We can now head inside the airplane, just click the door on the side, get this nice animation. And then we'll be in the flight deck. In the flight deck, it's pretty much business as usual. Head up to the overhead panel, switch on the batteries, switch the IRS over to nav. We're going to call for a ground power cart on the Sim's ATC menu. As soon as that arrives and it's plugged in, you'll see it outside. Once that's hooked up, switch on the ground power and switch on the APU starter. Once the APU is available, as signified by a blue light here, we're going to switch on the APU gen. Before we continue, I'll take care of a few other bits on the panel. So the fuel pumps on, yaw damper on, the pitot heat on and the window heat on. Going to switch on the hydraulic pumps and switch on the APU bleed. Next up, flick the ignition switch to engine number 1 and set engine number 1 to ground, then head down to the pedestal and introduce fuel. When you've got an M1 of 20 on engine number 1, that's a good start. You can now repeat the process, flick the ignition switch to engine number 2. Turn engine number 2 to ground, introduce fuel on the pedestal to engine number 2, and when you see an M1 of 20 on engine number 2, you've got a good start on that as well. We can now center the ignition switch. We're going to flick on the engine bleeds, turn the APU bleed off. We're going to set the packs to auto. Same with the generators, the engine generators go on. The APU generators go off, and now we can also switch off the APU and ground power unit. Lights as required from this point, and anti-ice as required. Now emergency exit lights to armed, and I'll also flick on seatbelts to auto, as well as power to the cabin utilities and in-flight entertainment. We'll also request for ground power cart to be removed. Be sure to increase the brightness of the radio panels, and also when ready, set the transponder to TARA. That's it, we can now request pushback, and of course remember to disconnect the parking brake before the pushback begins. The only extra step you'll need to do when starting from cold and dark is to manually switch on the Pilot Flying's flight director. Aside from that, from here on out you can follow my full flight tutorial for the 737 MAX, which is on the end cards. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.